All right, folks, what is going on? Happy Tuesday. Hopefully your Monday went well. Hope everything is going good. This is the First and Frame Rate Show. I am VF Baller, episode 291. I mean, we're chugging right along, and I feel I'm starting to get more into the swing of things of doing this on, Monday through Friday. I started this on January 3rd. Started a little nervous, but I feel like I'm starting to get used to this. It takes a while when you're constantly talking and trying to get a groove and making, deciding on what content you want to make. I really feel good about doing this on a daily basis. And I want to thank you guys for the support. Numbers continue rising. I really, really appreciate it. Not going to go on an original spill, but I will say this. I'm on your favorite platforms as far as the podcast. On YouTube, I am on YouTube and I'm on Rumble. So if you want to check out the podcast, either way, just put in First and Frame Race wherever you want to search. I should pop right on up. Someone asked me recently, should I get on iHeartRadio? And I know that'd be awesome if I can get there. The qualifications are a little bit different than these others, but I would definitely be trying to get there. Gave me a new reason to push my content to higher levels. So hopefully I get there, but it all thanks to you guys. It all starts with you guys. You guys, shoot the direction of where this podcast go. And I thank you guys for making that direction possible. So one more thing I want to get into. If you want to support, go ahead and hit the like button, share this podcast, subscribe to the channel or the podcast so you can continuously get this content. And if you really want to support, you can always donate. I'll have all the links down in the description of the podcast and or the YouTube or Rumble channels. All right, let's go ahead and get into this episode 291. You guys already know I talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football. Georgia Southern football is still on the back burner right now. Don't have much to really talk about, but things are heating up with the Falcons when it comes to the draft. And the draft is getting closer. Free agency is getting closer. And right now, I want to give you my thoughts and opinions on a certain player that I really didn't think that was going to be a viable option for the draft. I just be honest. I mean, once Dante Fowler got released, look, all bets are off. We want to get edge rusher, and we're going to get somebody to get after the quarterback. And I still believe that. But why the Falcons could select London Drake at number 8, wide receiver out of USC? Why could this be a real possibility? We're going to get into that. We're also going to talk about all the other talent that's around when it comes to pass rushers and why I just think this one particular receiver may be the guy. Now, it all started with the whole situation with Todd McShay. And I don't really like to follow mock drafts, but he said there's a possibility that the Falcons would take London Drake. Now, London Drake did get injured around the end of October of last year when he was playing for USC. But I'm going to tell you something about this guy. I want to tell you something about this guy and why this really started to catch my eye, because I started to look at some of the things that he's done for this past season for USC, because, even though we are struggling at wide receiver, there's no doubt about that. The whole situation with Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones is gone. The other receivers is just not up to par like I thought they'd be. Frank Darby just did not make it the way I thought he'd be. I think he wasn't going to be that type of impact. I got a feeling that London Drake may be that type of impact. And, to an extent, when you look at pass rush, and defense is, a big deal. Trenches is a big deal. But when you got a talent like this at receiver, I think you may want to just take a look at this. Now, I looked up some stats for London Drake. London Drake was injured. I think he would hurt his ankle or something like that. I think he hurt his ankle. And prior to that, listen to this. Prior to that, he played only 7.5 games. And in those 7.5 games, he had 88 catches for 1,084 yards. Just think about this. Now, he's a two-sport athlete. He played basketball as well. So he can get up there and get the ball. He can get some rebounds, and he's 6'5", 210 pounds. I believe when he gets to the NFL, he's probably going to put on another 15, maybe another 20 pounds. So now you're looking at a guy that's probably going to be 6'5", 225, 230. I'm not trying to cast any aspersions on another person or compare them, but that's Calvin Johnson's size. Now, I don't think the kid's going to be Calvin Johnson. I mean, did you see Calvin Johnson? Dude was a beast. I don't even think he's fast as Calvin Johnson, because Calvin Johnson ran a 4.3. But when you look at these numbers, 88 catches in 7 games, over 1,000 yards in 7.5 games. Now, mind you, if he played the rest of the season, he could have been on his way to nearly 2,000 yards receiving. He could have had literally almost 140 catches. Now, what I say with this, could this translate to the NFL? Yeah, I think it can. You can't touch receivers no more in the NFL. You barely could touch them. Now, I'm glad that it wasn't ACL. I'm glad that was, because, torn ACLs and all that is a really big deal. You saw Odell Beckham Jr. going through that. I don't think it was the same knee, but it just, for some reason, it just seemed like a running theme with people who have those type of injuries. He did break his ankle. I don't know if, for instance, if he will continue to have that burst of speed, but a broken ankle isn't as bad as a torn ACL. You have a situation like Michael Vick. He had a broken ankle. He came back. He was just fine. So, is it viable? Could the Falcons really select this guy with, the size, the athletic ability, and him capable of putting up these numbers? I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna say I'm against it, because I really believe that we need a pass rush badly. You see how things go when you have a good pass rush. You could disrupt a team offense. You could disrupt the offense easily. Look what happened to the Bengals. The Bengals couldn't do nothing in the Super Bowl. You just look at any other team that had some form of pass rusher who can stop the run. It just made a big difference for your team. But I will say this. What type of pass rusher that's in this draft that's warranted a number 8 pick? Honestly. Because if we're looking at pass rush, and pass rush is a priority, that means we need pass rush. But who's that guy out there who really is going to be that game changer? I think, honestly, when you look at the edge rushers, you got one person that's moving up quickly. That's Jermaine Johnson from Florida State. He's moving up really fast. In his stock is moving up really fast as far as the players that are available. But when you look at all of these edge rushers, you have a lot of them. You have a lot of edge rushers that are here. And with the Falcons situation, with Calvin Ridley, who probably going to end up trading him, you still got 2 picks in the second round. Who's to say that they don't get that edge rusher in the second round after picking Drake London? Who's to say they don't go back into the first round with the Calvin Ridley pick and get an edge rusher? Because it's a lot of edge rushers out here. I just feel like when you look at like wide receiver Garrett, Wilson, and you got Jameis Wilson, who really has a torn ACL. We just can't afford to get Jameis Williams right now and have him sick. We need somebody on the field right away. And I think with the ankle injury, I would not be surprised if Drake London is pretty much about almost healed from that injury, and is pretty much ready to go at least by the beginning of summer. But with a torn ACL, it does 8 to 10, 12 months. Jameis Williams may not be available till later on, the beginning of the middle, or like week 6, week 7 of the season. But look, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm trying to make the case that this could be a possibility. And I will be honest with you, I'm against it, because I feel like pass rusher is a thing. We need it, But when you really say we need that pass rush, I'm looking at, like I said, the guy from Florida State, Jermaine Johnson. He's moving up really fast. Kayvon Thibodeau is another one. And there's a few other ones that are there that may be good, but I just don't know if they're generational talents. With the way the receiver is now in the NFL, I can see where you can get this guy and nobody's really going to touch him. He can go across the middle at 6'5", 210. He can go up and catch the ball and get a pass interference almost every time. I mean, it's something to think about. I mean, I'm not saying that it should happen, but when you look at this, I'm just making a case that could possibly be a reality or make sense. I mean, who am I to, to just be focused on one position, which, like I said, I know it's a priority. I just talked about it in episode 288. So I'm not going to sit there and act crazy and be like, oh, I didn't say that or be a hypocrite. I mean, look, I'm still on board with that. But I want people to really start looking at things and focusing on other avenues what possibly could happen. And I'm not even talking about situations where we trade back from number 8 and go further down and get more picks. I'm not even putting that there because that stuff basically happens on the fly or it happens in mere minutes during the draft. This is nothing that happens like we know now that, the draft is a month and a half away and we know that the Falcons are going to trade that pick when the draft comes. We don't know that. So I'm just talking about everything based on the time of each pick. And I'm sitting here thinking like, well, this could be a possibility. Also, Jermaine Johnson actually did do well at the Senior Bowl. Our front office was at the Senior Bowl. So this could be a reason why, I know some people already said, Jermaine Johnson could be that guy. And look, I'll be happy if it is. I'm not against it. But I'm just looking at the situation like, okay, our wide receiver position is just as dire as the pass rush situation. They're almost identical as far as needs, in my opinion. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is all I'm saying. At the end of the day, I feel like either one I would be okay with, but I still lean towards pass rush because games are won in the trenches. The flip side to that, if you get a big receiver that can get some calls, you can get some receivers, or you can get a receiver that don't mind going across the middle and be a big physical target and can catch. That's not a bad thing either. Because like I said, the receiver can't be touched anymore. They barely could be touched. Hell, we saw in the Super Bowl where penalties was all over the place in the Super Bowl. Jalen Ramsey got pulled to the ground and the receiver caught the ball for a touchdown. If it was the other way around, it'd have been a flag easily. You know what I mean? So there's pros and cons to all of this. And I think at the end of the day, I can see this happening, but I've seen it too many times where when you can't get at the quarterback, where that's detrimental to your team. When you can't get to the quarterback, so many things happen. As far as the opposition runs roughshod on your team. And even though that Dante Fowler only gave a 4.5 sacks, he was a leader. We only had 18 sacks total. I think we did okay overall. I don't think it was like abysmal. Yeah, you want to get to the quarterback more often, but it wasn't like it was really, really, really bad. I mean, outside of the Tampa game, the Dallas game. Well, I ain't gonna say the Tampa games actually wasn't that bad either because we got to Tom Brady a couple times. But outside of the Dallas game and the Patriots game, they were by numbers they were terrible, but they were able to do some things at some times. That doesn't mean that absolves him and say, oh, everything is okay, because you still need that help. You need a guy that could get at the quarterback. You need a Max Crosby. You need a Chase Young. You need a Bosa. You need that. But, I mean, the numbers make it seem like it was absolutely terrible, but these guys held their own at times. You know, I mean, thanks to the linebackers, but, you know, that's another story for another day, which I think we should get a linebacker sometime later down in the draft. But when you're looking at these first picks, definitely like this number 8, if we're going to stay at number 8, I can see where this wide receiver situation is an issue. It could be a pick. I mean, who else do we have? You know, could we get a receiver later on in the draft? Yeah, I think so. You got Treylon Burks out of Arkansas. You know, you got Jahan Dotson. You know, John Mechie is still out there. Don't forget that John Mechie got hurt earlier, but, you know, he should be back to play. He'd probably be ready by training camp. And John Mechie can play. He's a baller. You know, that's somebody we haven't talked about. Justin Ross out of Clemson. Clemson fell off so far, man. You don't even hear about, you know, Clemson. A sleeper, Wan'Dale Robinson out of Kentucky. He's a sleeper. Nobody talks about this kid, but Kentucky has been pulling out some really good talent lately out of the, you know, out of their, out of their program. So it's there. But when I look at these numbers that Drake London put up, I mean, out of 7 games, he had 88 catches in 7 games. That means he could catch the ball. You know, and he's a big physical receiver at 6'5", 210. Like I said, probably by the time he gets into the league and go through weight and conditioning, he should be about at least 220, 225. It's a possibility we're looking at a Mike Evans right here. I mean, is it something I'm saying that's wrong? Am I talking crazy? I'm not really sure when I look at this, when I actually looked at it. But like I said, the flip side of that, the thing about that, I don't want to go round and round with that for the third time or whatever. The thing about it is the Falcons got so many issues when it comes to what this team needs. They have so many issues when it comes to what this team needs. And that's the big issue. Pass rush, offensive line has issues, secondary got issues, receivers. I mean, it's all over the place. So pick your poison or pick the best player available. Like I always thought it was going to be pick the best player available. Is Drake London the best player available at number 8? It's a good question to ask because these pass rushers are nice. But I don't think any of these pass rushers have been putting up numbers like Drake London has as far as the type of numbers for your position. I haven't even looked at what Aiden Hutchinson has done, or Thibodeau, or, you know, I haven't looked at what any of these Ojabo. I haven't looked at any of what these pass rushers have done. Jeremiah Johnson, I don't know. But I'm just looking at the numbers on, you know, on Drake London because I wasn't able to watch any of his games. His game, you know, he plays, you know, on the West Coast. You better get to see his games on Saturday night. And the only person that's on this list, as far as on the draft big board, that I know that can ball and I don't have to look at the numbers, is Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean looks like he wants to play in the NFL and make an impact. And I'm not saying he looks like it because I see him. I'm looking at what he does on the field. That guy's going to be special for somebody. And it's a shame that really, you know, the Falcons, or I don't even think the Falcons were looking at him. I mean, just something about that kid I really, really like. And the fact they got him at 24 on this board that I'm looking at, drafttech.com, I may just put this down in the description so you can look at the big board that they have. They have a lot of stuff on here that's pretty interesting. And I highly recommend you check out drafttech.com. But It's a shame that Nakobe Dean is not top 10. And I'm saying that just as a pure defensive football player. They got him listed as inside linebacker, but as a pure defensive football player, I believe he could do anything and everything around that front seven. And he has some pretty decent hands. But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I just hope the Falcons take heed to him because I think he'll be a huge asset to anybody that comes to that team. But the rest of these guys, these edge rushers, I don't know what they do. I don't. I didn't even look at their numbers. Excuse me. I'm going to be honest. I've been somewhat, sleeping on them because none of these guys really stood out. I think the only person that really stood out was Kayvon Thibodeaux. I think Thibodeaux has always been a guy that I say, okay, as edge rusher, I think he could do I think he'd be pretty good. I think he'd be straight up NFL ready and ready to go. So I'm going to look at his stats real quick before I get out of here because, I don't want to hold you guys up for too long. If they pull up, if not, then that's okay. I'm not really here to do that today. It looks like my computer is oh, nope, there it is. I take that back. So overall, this season, he played in 11 games, 35 solo tackles, 15 assists for a total of 50 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, which is actually pretty good. 1 pass deflected, 1 forced fumble, 2 forced fumbles. So that's not bad. I like those numbers. For 11 games, you had 7 sacks. That's not bad at all. So this is what I'm saying. If Thibodeau's a guy, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I don't want to go down this whole rabbit hole and look at everybody's stats, but Thibodeaux is probably like the only guy that I've actually looked at his highlights and be like, okay, I can see why, people are high on him. Aiden Hutchinson, to be honest, watching him at Michigan, I've watched him and I don't see it. To be honest, I only talked about him briefly. I don't see it. So I mean, there are a few other guys here I watched very briefly, but I watched a lot of Aiden Hutchinson because I do have a soft spot for Michigan football. I always wanted them to get back to prominence, and I think they did a pretty good job for themselves by making the playoffs. But after, before then, I've always thought that there was a really good football program, and I hate to see them always get slapped around by Ohio State. So when they were in the running, I actually watched a few of their games, and Aiden Hutchinson did play well, but I just don't see that this is that talent that's going to revolutionize somebody's defensive line. I could be wrong, but I just don't see it. At the end of the day, before I close, for real this time, I think Drake London could change the game for the Atlanta Falcons with their receivers. The wide receiver corps that we have is just not up to par for what we have. And I think Matt Ryan could use another big target along with Kyle Pitts. That'd be great. If Hayden Hurst decides to come back, that'd be awesome. But we'll talk about that at a later time. Either way, they can't go wrong. I'm still leaning towards the pass rush because the trenches defense, controlling the trenches wins football games. But the flip side to that, I will say, you look at a guy like Drake London who could get pass interference calls, go over the middle. Nobody wants to be able to tackle this big guy, and he has hands so he can go up and get the jump balls. I don't think you can lose either way, but we see what happens when you don't have a defensive line. You also see what happens when you don't have a wide receiver that can actually, have a good wide receiver corps. So let me know what you guys think. I'm going to get up out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I try not to keep them too long. I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of you guys' Tuesday. If you like this content, hit the like button, share and subscribe, share and subscribe, share and subscribe. We are growing, people. First and Frame Rates, where we frame the culture, is growing. We are doing this over here, and it all starts with talking about Atlanta Falcons and Georgia Southern football, and it definitely primarily starts with you guys supporting, watching, and listening. Find me on YouTube, find me on Rumble. Just type it in, I pop right on up. Find me on your favorite podcast platform. Type in First and Frame Rate, I should pop right on up. Also, if you feel like you want to really support, you can always donate through CashApp, which is VFBaller20, or you could go through the Anchor app or Anchor link that's in the description below. And I'm still working on that PayPal one. So hopefully you guys will, either way, it doesn't matter. As long as you guys are listening, I am happy. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys on the next one. You guys be blessed. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Guys, take care. Peace.